Dixie Jarko, and this is Tom Cannon, and we're here with Authors Showcase with Dan Anderson. Good morning, Dan. Thanks for coming out on today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So we met you because you won a writing contest for the Lakefly Writers Conference.
What was that for, a short story or?
Yeah, I believe it was flash fiction, so a
flash.
really short story, maybe 400, 500 words or so.
And do you enter a lot of contests?
Not really, no. I haven't really spent much time with the contests. I'm trying to focus more on like the bigger type things, larger projects. But because after a while, I got really tired of the submitting to like academic journals, and they have a very specific thing in mind they want.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it was kind of a waste of time.
Because you create something for that specific thing, and then they're like, no, thanks, and then you've got this great piece.
Yeah, it seems like they're looking for a specific tone and like academic. Although we've heard some of your work, and I think it fits well. I mean, it's very thematic. You have a good tone with yours. Have you been accepted in those literary journals?
Yeah, I have a couple of them. One of them is in Poetry Quarterly. Another poem in a place I cannot even remember. And then I also have one in Cream City Review. So out of Milwaukee, EW Milwaukee.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good journal.
Yeah.
So you're here today because you have a book contract. Is this your first contract?
Yes, this is the first contract I have. So
Very exciting.
oh man, it was fun doing research on all of that. Because I originally thought maybe I'll go to a lawyer and have them look it over. But then
You're going to sign it anyway.
Yeah. The initial 30 minutes will be $250, and I'm like, oh, I'll just Google a lot, and there's this library place, and I'm going to read a lot about that. So
it's not your first novel though?
It's technically the first one I wrote, but it's the first one that's been accepted. So
It's the first one you wrote?
yeah.
So it's the first one you wrote.
Oh, now we're impressed. Yeah. Wow.
But who knows? I mean, who knows how it will do?
What's it about? Tell us the premise.
Well, basically, it would be considered, I guess, a new adult.
New adult. I haven't heard that
Which is
one.
a new category, apparently.
yeah.
I just learned about. So basically, it's you got your young adult, and then you've got those people that are like in college and in that kind of mid-20s range. So I figured I would write about kind of that college to adulthood type transition. But I wrote about a guy who is totally clueless as to how the world works. So he's addicted to video games, movies, books. And when he goes out into the real world, he sees all of these things that, wait, this doesn't really work. This shouldn't be right. This doesn't have order to it. Why isn't this more like, this novel or this book? So he kind of becomes this person who relies on alcohol, pills, movies to escape the reality that he cannot control.
So what kind of a job does he have that's so bad? Or
He doesn't actually have a bad job. He's an editor for like a small newspaper, and he tutors college students. So it's a bunch of little jobs that he can kind of do from home.
Yeah.
In between watching movies and things like that. But when he's faced with reality, he kind of tries to force his own ideals on the world around him. And it's usually when he is imbibed or otherwise changed or altered. So he gets himself into some situations that cause many problems for him and his relationships with family and friends and whatnot.
Are there specific books that he's thinking about that don't jibe with the reality then?
Not in particular. It's more of the movies that he kind of is like, wait, is this going to turn into American Psycho? But nothing that violent. But he talks a lot about Dostoevsky and like existentialism, and he's kind of really struggling with that. And he relates with this professor that teaches philosophy. So he kind of connects with that professor, and the professor kind of is a sounding board, like, here's how you're acting. Maybe you need to reevaluate your place in life. So it's the theme,
Mhm.
everyone thinks they're their own star of their own movie. That kind
And
of
so it's
idea.
this realization that kind of
Maybe you're not the center of the universe.
struggle with that.
Exactly.
So what made you make the jump? Because it's a huge jump from doing short fiction to a book. How long is your book? Is it?
It came out to be about 87,000 words.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure how many pages that. I'm around 300.
Yeah.
I think that actually, probably what do you think, about 70,000 for your first novel, I think is what they're looking at. So
Mhm.
that's a pretty good range for.
So what made you make that jump from short fiction to
I guess I teach 3 creative writing classes, so I figured
teacher?
I might as well get more into it.
Mhm.
Because there are other teachers I know that teach creative writing, but they have, I haven't written in 10 years, I haven't written since, high school. And I'm just thinking,
And then you're asking the kids to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know the struggle.
and it reminded me of like in high school where I had a phy ed teacher who was like, do your push-ups, and it's like, what, you can't do any push-ups.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be that person with writing. So then I had all these little nuggets of ideas. And then I'm like, well, all right, let's listen to a bunch of author interviews. And all these authors are like, well, I write 1,000 words a day. Or
Is that how you did it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Was it 1,000 words a day?
Not always. Sometimes it was more.
But that was your goal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it would just be, all right, 45 minutes, before bed or something along those lines. But
Yeah.
just incremental goals.
Now, did you edit as you went along, or did you get it all down and then do the big editing at the end?
I tried not to edit as I went along, but I've always been that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are the same way, but
I fight both. I go both ways. I don't know.
mhm. Because
What about you?
Yeah, you try to just write the first draft, but then sometimes you feel yourself, no, I got that.
Or you change something, you're like, oh, I better go back before I forget and change, that's a
Mhm.
light Cadillac, or, something,
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
Little OCD. Well, yeah, but okay, now it's a
Yeah.
red
Or I
car, but
forgot
it
what
used
it
to
was,
be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you keep a book with, keep your characters straight, or?
Yeah, I usually don't like doing things on paper, but
Mhm.
next to the computer I had a little notebook with a lot of it, like the consistency things. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, the mom has reddish, this type of hair. If I'm gonna bring that up, I don't want it to be all of a sudden, she's got a mohawk or something
Yeah.
like that.
Now, do you use any of the programs that are out there?
No, I almost did, I think it's called Scrivener.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought about doing that because I've heard nothing but great things about it.
Mhm.
And then I know there was one that you had mentioned, I think.
I use Pro Writing Aid afterwards, because it gets all the redundancies, and I'm very fond of
Yeah.
using a certain word a million times.
Yeah.
And Scrivener, I think, is good from what I've seen of it, where you basically you can write in chapters, and you can describe your chapters, and so then if you want to move your chapter to like the first part, you can move your story around easier.
Hmm.
But if you don't have that, and if it feels right for you, just
Have you ever done
copy
that, though? Have you ever moved stuff around? Because I
Yes, I
tend
do.
to. Oh, really? Okay, because I tend to write linear, and I don't think I've ever moved anything.
all the time.
Damn, really?
Where you're,
Oh, cool.
yeah, I mean whole paragraphs, whole whole chapters.
Really? Okay.
Whole sections.
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to copy it onto a separate document
Uh-huh.
so that you don't.
Wow.
Get like, yeah.
Well, and I know they have it here at the library. I know you can.
Scrivener,
you can
yeah.
use it here at the library too, if you're interested readers. So.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like Michael Perry, he actually prints this stuff out and cuts and pastes
Oh,
it.
see, I
So
do
it's
too,
big
but I
long
never
scrolls.
cut. Oh,
Like
no.
The Road meets like William S. Burroughs.
But then
Naked
you've got to hope
Lunches.
your dog doesn't, want the paper or
Mm.
something, because, yeah, that wouldn't work in our house.
So what is your writing process? When do you write?
A
so
certain time or,
Hmm. Like on a day like Saturday or Sunday, usually it's feed the cats, clean out their litter,
Hmm.
wash hands. Then
yeah, thank you.
yeah, just toxoplasmosis.
Teacher.
Yes, right. Then I usually try to do like 45 minutes, and then like my alarm goes off, 15-minute break, where I just walk around aimlessly staring at the wall or doing
You're pretty
laundry.
focused.
Mhm.
It's pretty focused.
So I try to do at least 3 of those on the weekends. And then during the week it's more difficult because
Yeah.
at work, you get home,
You're tired, yeah.
it's like just like to stare at Netflix.
Yeah.
Right.
So that varies.
So you finished it. Did you go back then and edit it once, twice, a year and a half? What was your process?
I tried to let it sit on the shelf. Well,
They
always tell you to do
electronic
that.
shelf.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let it, yeah.
So I set an alarm on my phone for 6 months after.
Oh.
That went off, and I'm like, oh, I guess I have to do this. And a little OCD on that. I'm like, well, if I don't do it, then I'm failing myself.
Yes.
So then, yeah, it was kind of, all right, let's do a chapter a day. And then I found I was doing a lot more editing, so it slowed down quite a bit. And then I actually did the whole moving one chunk to this area and then deleting whole chunks. And then I threw a couple flashbacks into it. I'm like, well, this character needs to be developed more.
Mm-hmm.
So
Then what was your process? Okay, it's done. You feel like, okay, it's done. Did you have other people read it? Did you have beta readers? Did you?
yeah, I had a couple friends beta read it. I wanted them to be the first because they're not real readers.
Mhm.
Anyone
So
here.
you owe them big time, right?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I'll head out to the bars. I'll buy you a drink
Yeah.
or 10 to forget that you had to read one of the first drafts. But yeah, I tried to have people that would just read, Harry Potter, like
Yeah.
those types of, not the people that are very, well versed. And then after that, I went to people, such as yourselves, who would, they would pick out, okay, this you need to fix this and that and this and that. So I started off slow and then got more challenging after.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you know when it was time to submit it to
Next question.
publisher?
It was a time where I just read through it and I was only fixing grammatical things. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, grammar.
I feel like the story, I don't have anything to add, and it exists on its own now. Once I felt like I could walk away from it and just, it's not mine anymore,
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, all right, I'm going to start.
Now, were you writing other stuff in the 6 months, or did you just kick back and say, ooh?
Yeah, I was writing other stuff. I tried to pretend it didn't exist.
Okay.
So then I started planning a second book and then writing a little dinky stories.
Uh-huh. So do you start with a theme first? This is what it's going to be. I know the ending. I know the middle. Do you plot it all out, or are you a pantser?
Do you have an outline,
Plotter, yeah.
or do you just see what comes up? Develop the characters, see what they do.
Mm-hmm. It depends. The first one, I knew the character because I was basically taking like me, my friends, and then exaggerating them.
Yeah.
The second book that I wrote, that one was more like I have these characters and we'll see what happens
Cool.
based on that. And then I kind of knew what the end was going to be, but I knew that there was going to be a ton of editing, a ton of revising, and a lot of probably moving things around.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like trial and error. That didn't work. I'm never doing that again. That kind of worked.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll stick with that.
So,
I don't think we actually, first, why don't you tell us what the title of this
Oh,
book is
good
and
point.
when you think it's going to come out. Hopefully we'll ask you at the end again.
Hmm.
But let's,
Yeah, the book, it's a weird title, and every time I say it, people are like, come again? But it's called Drunk in the Warm Glow.
oh, I like
oh,
it.
wow.
So
Oh, we like it.
Yes.
I don't know what the cover's going to be yet, but I'm hoping it's kind of going to be like shadowy, guys sitting in front of the TV, just, dark, but the glow's
I
kind
can picture that, yeah.
So that's kind of the idea, is basically he's just delusional, drunk, and he just has like this nice little warm, cozy place, which is basically Hollywood in the minds of writers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I thought, and I was on a car ride, and my girlfriend and I were going back and forth, and I just had terrible idea after terrible idea. And then she's like, okay, she's writing them all down, and then we just kind of mushed them together. That's what came up with.
And when do you think it's going to come out? When are you hoping for?
God, let's see, it's January now. I would love it if it was out by the end of the year. As a first book, I feel like I'd be comfortable with that.
Now,
And this is January. Hopefully this comes out
So
before the end of
12
the
Yeah,
year.
so 12 months is what we're.
Yeah, that's what I would
11.
hope for. Anything beyond, like before that would be great. Anything beyond that, then I get a little antsy.
So who is the publisher and how did you find them?
The publisher is Creators Publishing. They're a California company. They do they do lots of different multimedia, and then they have a subsection of publishing. And I had submitted to a bunch of different agents, and I wasn't sure how the agent thing really
Yeah.
worked. So for my first one, I thought if I could just get a small independent publisher, that's kind of like getting one, a step. It's like, okay, well, I have one book published, and then maybe an agent would be more interested.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's definitely the way to go. Don't instead of submitting to Penguin.
Yeah. But that works for some people too. I don't know. First book, he's got it published.
Yeah. Which is
Daunting.
mm-hmm.
So they responded to you, emailed them your stuff, and then how did that all come about?
Basically, it was, I did research about of them, and then I found how they wanted it to be submitted, followed their guidelines to the T, and I think it was 6 months later,
Wow.
they emailed back and they said, our editors have bounced it around and we think it's something that we'd like to publish, and
Nice.
are you interested still?
Yeah.
I think we've heard from people at conferences and stuff presenting where they are looking for anything. Oh, I don't like this paper, or just
When you submit anything they can
they're
do
just
to
looking for a
X
reason
it
to
out.
cast it off the
And
slush
not look
pile.
at it.
So following the guidelines to a T, I think, is very important.
Yeah, and that's one that I remember one story I felt really good with. I submitted it somewhere, and the guy, before even reading it, responded, "You were, 20 words over, so we didn't read it." Sorry. And I'm like, 20 words, I could have.
You could have, yeah. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned my
At least
lesson.
he wrote back to you, though. I send a lot of stuff out. I didn't get anything.
The form
Yeah.
rejection. We thank you, writer.
And wish you the best of luck in
Yeah.
finding an agent.
Yes.
So how many did you submit to? Did you submit a bunch at a time or one at a time and wait?
I try to do 5 at a time, so it'd be like, and I use QueryTracker.net.
Okay.
So it's like a big database, and you can keep track of all your submissions, how long they've been out there. It's awesome. It's $25 a year, and I feel like I'm gonna keep subscribing there. But what was the original question?
Did you submit to one or a bunch of them?
5 at a time, and then 2 independent publishers, so smaller houses. So it was like.
So you had a bunch of them out there.
I tried. So it was about 7 at a time, and then when a rejection came in, crossed it off the list, went on the next one. So I had this lovely document of it's just submission list and lots of X's through things. And
Now, does QueryTracker do that for you, or?
yeah, they do.
Oh, okay.
And it's basically green smiley face for acceptance.
Oh, really?
Red sad face for rejection. So.
Have you? You said you got a contract at some point.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? What did you do with that?
Well,
Did you
first.
sign it right away, or did you?
First, I showed my creative writing to students before I even read it.
Oh, you did.
I'm like, this is, because there's some of them that they're like, I want to try it as this is
Yeah.
a career. And I'm like, okay,
Oh my God.
well, let me show you a couple things from someone that's very new to this. I think it was 8 or 9 pages. And then I'm like, all right, well, this is on the to-do docket. So
Was that something you wrote that was 8 or 9 pages, or?
the contract was.
Oh, the contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I guess was what I expected. I was worried it was going to be something longer, but then I read through it the first time, and then I'm like, all right, Google became an ally.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were some areas that I knew right away that I needed to change. There was one clause that was, after you publish with us, we get first dibs on your second work with the same contract.
Ooh,
Oh.
that's
Which, that seemed very limiting to me.
Right, I think it's kind of standard that they get first crack at your next one.
But not with the same contract that I've seen.
Mm-hmm. And so,
Did you read? I didn't even read my contracts, I don't think. I'm impressed that you read them. I was like, I'm signing this no matter what, man. I'm jumping the toilet. Yes, I will do it.
Yeah, I think about it. My teacher contract is 1 page, written like size 14 font.
You'll do anything we tell you. Yes, yes, I will.
Yeah.
We're not even going to tell you how much we pay you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I signed on the same side that the contract was.
Yes.
So
yeah.
you were able, does it still have in the contract that they get first crack, but it doesn't have
Or
to
did you
be the
take
same?
that out?
I asked them to take it out,
Nice.
and
Did they
and
do it?
some
They
other
just-
things like that. Yeah, and so they didn't take some other stuff out too, but those were kind of like my preference.
Yeah.
You know, like, they always put the movie TV rights, and this
Yeah.
isn't going to be a movie or a TV.
You don't
Right.
know that.
But exactly, so I was
Yeah.
like, can you guys take that out? Because I just want to retain as much autonomy and responsibility.
Mhm.
But they're like, yeah, that's part of the way we do things. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what you're doing.
You'll still get a ton of money if it turns into a movie.
Right.
Have they talked to you about publicizing the book, about
Not yet.
going
Oh,
to
boy.
bookstores, having your own website?
I know we have to have they encourage us strongly to have Facebook, Twitter, a website. We are required to review other authors in PRISM groups. Not required, but they're strongly encouraged to review other writers' stuff. So we're kind of a team, which is nice.
That's
Anything
good
like
to know. They haven't told me anything about that, but that's good to know because
I want you to have all that stuff.
Yeah.
Have your own platform.
Platform, that's what that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have been looking into like WordPress, like where you pay to have a website and all of that.
Mhm.
'Cause I know-
Isn't WordPress free? I have WordPress.
Yeah,
There's
I know
two.
you-
But
Yeah,
maybe
there's
a
two
business
versions.
one
Yeah,
is-
you have a WordPress. We can have the WordPress.
A blog. You can
And
have
then
a
you
blog.
can have WordPress where you get your own domain name. So then it's dananderson.com instead
Oh,
of,
okay.
instead of a backslash Dan
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anderson.
WordPress.com, yeah.
Because I know yours, because I like the way yours is set up.
Mine's
Yeah.
free.
Oh,
Daisy
it is
Jericho
free,
at
yeah.
WordPress.com. Yep. Little plug there, sorry.
Yeah.
So have you had to go out there, or has it been all emails and stuff so far?
Emails, one phone call.
Are they gonna do it as an ebook also, or an audio? Is there anything that they've talked to you about that?
There's, it'll be available on print, so you can
Nice.
do. I assume it'll
Print
be
on demand,
print on
kinda?
demand, yeah.
Mhm.
That way they don't have to invest as much, which is a smart move. And then it'll be the ebook version too. I'm not sure what they'll set the price for or anything like that, but yeah, they'll have both options, which I'm pumped for.
Yeah.
Just the idea of seeing it in print would be cool,
Yeah. Yeah.
even if it makes no money. But
Plus, when
Yeah.
you go around, it's nice to have the actual book. Mine are just an ebook, so I don't have anything to, I go to
Mhm.
these seminars, and I'm like, no, I don't have anything, to sell or even show, here it is.
So have you told your students that want to make a living at it, so, well, wait, when I quit my job, day
Yeah.
job, and make a
Yeah.
living, then maybe you can.
yeah, because they're always like, well, how much money have you made so far? And I'm like,
Well, it's not published.
let's not talk about that. Let's change the subject. Look outside. There's a butterfly. And they're like, it's midwinter. There's no.
Because there's lots
Squirrel.
of people that have many books, but they still can't make a living. It's tough in these.
Yeah, you don't do it for money, I don't think.
Right.
No.
You would write whether they paid you or not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One thing though, I do need to. I'm looking forward to, and I want to learn more about is the whole self-promo and then reviewing other, writers and things like that. That's something like I'm definitely willing to put in the time. So when they tell me, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I think I have a couple friends who do a lot of Amazon reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get to a certain point, then you become a preferred reviewer, or there's some name for it. And that actually helps promote their book. Similar to Twitter, if you promote your tweets and that type of thing, you get a lot of people following you, and hopefully that translates into sales.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure though, it just takes so much time to do all that
Nothing.
stuff.
Right, and when you do have Twitter or on Facebook, you don't want just always to be, here's my book, buy my book.
You
want
have to give them
content.
something
Yeah, that's
of value.
some entertainment, some information.
And then you get into, you want to optimize your site, and then you start learning all the computer stuff, like the search engine optimization. If you put in keywords in the, the meta, whatever, drives people to your site. So you start to learn all sorts of things that you never really wanted to know.
I know, and that was like a full week of me just doing blog, like, and I think I have a book on hold right now, just like, blogging 101, blogging for dummies, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because, I'm like, I just wanted to write a story and then just be done there, but it's like, that's not how it works.
Well, and also, if you submit, did you have to do I know I had to submit 13 words, my story in 13 words. Then I had to do a paragraph. Then I had to do a synopsis. I mean, did you have to do all that stuff? That's a totally different skill than writing a book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the good old query letter, then you have...
You did that all?
The synopsis.
Yeah.
Don't forget to capitalize the character's name the first time. All of those little details.
Mm-hmm.
So some days it felt like I went to work, I did my normal job, then I went home, and then I did the writing part. And then, like, on the weekends, it was like, now I'm doing my technology job.
Yeah.
So it becomes...
Because it's a whole nother skill.
This unraveling of a carpet that more and more and more.
Well, speaking of technology, so did you when you submitted your book, your query letter, did you do it online, or was it in the envelope, snail mail type?
I don't think I did any snail mail. I think it was all emailed or one of those forms, which I'm very glad.
Yeah, I remember spending $70 on postage trying to send stuff out.
To start coming to the writers' meeting, I'm like, well, the accumulated knowledge there is probably insane. I've only been in 2 or 3 meetings so far, and already I've learned.
We do have some pretty, we have people who've been very well published. We have a Random House person who's got 5 books in Random House, and so I agree with you.
Where they have tips like try querytracker.com, Pro Writing Aid.
Duotrope's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even the technology help is invaluable, I think. So join a writing group. Or 2.
Yes.
Are you in other writing groups?
No, this is the first one I've ever joined, and I should be doing more with the online writing groups because there are so many.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in critiquecircle.com, and you can just send a chapter, and then you review other people's stuff, but they'll, it's just out there, and people will read it, and, because sometimes, I know at the writing group, they don't read my type of writing. I write a certain style or a genre, and we've got people going, well, I don't understand, you don't read this, don't worry about it. You're not my target audience.
Right.
But there, you put it into a genre, and those people do read everything in the genre, so they have it's kind of nice to have that group with that reads what you... Do you use online critique at all?
I tried the critiquecircle.com, but then you have to make time for it.
Mm-hmm. You have to review other people's stuff.
And then some of the stuff was pretty bad. I didn't want to be too harsh. I don't know, maybe some of it I was jealous of. I don't know.
Yeah, some of it's darn good.
So are you in some online groups?
There was one called Lit Reactor. You have to pay for that. So I've been debating that one. I actually met a guy here, Richard Thomas, who we had at the Lakefly conference, and I ran into him at another conference, and then another guy, so I kept running into this guy, and then he's like, well, check out Lit Reactor, and he teaches a course on there, and then you can also get your work critiqued, but it's kind of one of those systems where you do 2 critiques, and then you're allowed 1 critique or something like that.
That's kind of how this is too. You get points for doing critiques, and then... So what's in the future for you? What's
I'm working on... Well, I'm editing... I'm really going to edit the second book that I wrote. That one's young adult, because I figured I wanted to write something for my students, something that
they could read.
Yeah.
PG.
Something that's not around the idea of a guy that's addicted to different things.
Looking at
How much of this is you?
So when you lead with examples, you can actually show it to them.
And I wrote it the first book is in first person, so they're going to literally read me.
They're going to think you as the character.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's tough. First person is tough.
So this one I was like, let's make it third person.
Why'd you choose first person? I mean, did you actively
Yes.
choose it, or have you always written that way, or? Because that's supposed to be the toughest.
I think it was just like, I knew I related, and I knew my friends related, and I just was like, I wanted to, and also there's a lot of thought. There's a lot of him ranting in his mind. So I
I
felt
love a good rant.
Yeah, so I felt like it would be good just to have it in his voice, the way he's very cynical about things.
So have your friends read it? Do they say, "Oh, dude, that's me"?
Yeah. This
Oh
is.
dear.
Yep. Oh, I remember doing that to you.
Right.
That was me. That was me. You just changed the name. Do I get credit like in
Oh.
the?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Thank
You-
you to yeah.
But feel free to write your own book if you want.
Yeah, you do any. You use my life as do it. Go ahead.
And are there any? What are the challenges of writing it in second person, or is it going pretty easily?
Or you want
for
to tell us the difference? Because you're an English teacher.
Between like
First and second.
so like with this third person one, it was weird because I kept thinking, well, I want to have them have thoughts, and I don't like doing the old he thought, she
Yeah.
thought. So I just adopted italics.
Okay.
And there it was difficult because it's like, who do I want to focus on? Because there's 4 main characters. And then it was a balancing act of who do I really want to be the star here and who's supporting. So that became difficult. With, Drunken, the Warm Glow, it's first person.
Yeah.
It's all about him. And that's kind of the point of the novel, is he thinks it's all about him.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big challenge. It's balancing between different characters, and I at first thought maybe I'll do like, the George R. Martin,
Mm-hmm.
where every chapter is a different character.
Yeah.
But then I didn't really want. It's like it's too choppy
Mhm.
for what I
Mhm.
wanted.
So what authors do you read? Do you have time to read?
Yeah, the stuff I read is not young adult.
Mm.
It's I read books.
You get enough young adult during the day.
Yeah, exactly. During school, people are like, "Ooh, you got to read this one and this one." Chuck Palahniuk is like, I read anything by him. If you're not familiar, he did like Fight Club.
Oh, okay.
Then they made a movie on it.
Mhm.
He writes transgressive fiction, so fiction that it's kind of for people that are more on the outskirts of society. They don't
Cool.
really conform too much. So I read things that I don't necessarily write like.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of Chuck Palahniuk, a lot. I think I've read all 14 of his books or something.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
So a lot of out there stuff and a lot of humor. A lot of
Mhm.
humor writing. Comedians.
Okay. What's the main few tips that you give your students when you present at a conference? What tips are you going to start with and tell people?
Well, my students, I tell them if there's anything to remember from the class is when you write, you want a mixture of action, dialogue, and description. Just don't forget those 3 things. Because I have some students that it's just all narration.
Yeah.
Or just all actions, and then along with dialogue, I include thoughts, what are people thinking? So that's one of the main things. And then the second is just, John Green said it in a different way, but just give yourself permission to write terribly the first time. And then you go back and then you fix it.
Did you start writing stories or what have you?
I guess I told a lot of stories in high school. I was the guy that went up in front of everyone and told embarrassing stories about myself. But then I didn't write because high school did not appeal to me. But I'm a high school teacher. But, it didn't appeal to me at all because it was very formula.
Mhm.
You must do this, you must do that. So I guess beginning of last year is when I really started writing like every day and editing pretty heavily.
Mhm.
So that's a year and a half, probably.
Oh, wow. Do you go to a lot of conferences? You've mentioned that a couple times. Do you find they're useful?
Some.
Yeah.
I went to one in Indiana recently, and it was just one guy talking the entire 8 hours.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
You get to go to the bathroom, and then they had agent pitches
Uh-huh.
throughout. That was not useful.
No.
But I'm going to the Madison conference coming up, and
That's a good one.
yeah, and it looks like it's going to be, there's a lot going on. And then, of course, the Lakefly here was awesome because there's a lot going on, a
we
lot
love
of
him.
different topics. There was a comedian there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, I can get a comedian. And then I went and saw, I met Richard Thomas, got introduced to a successful writer who is totally different than comedy.
Yeah.
So it's...
I think
you should maintain your relationship with Richard Thomas, email him, talk to him, and then hit him up for a blurb on your cover.
That's important. That's what we do.
Networking is good. That's important to go to conferences.
In fact, we've had people who've written, it wasn't Stephen King, who was it? Maybe it was Stephen King. Remember that one woman wrote to him just out of the blue, and he wrote back to her?
It was Dean Koontz.
Dean Koontz, yeah. He wrote this big letter to her, and she's like, now we're buds. And I'm like,
Really?
This is great.
Yeah, and that's one thing he did mention too is just pray that maybe they read it, because he sent it out to a few people like Irving Welsh, and they gave him a blurb, but then others like the guy who reads the Jack Reacher
Oh, yeah.
or Lee Child.
Lee Child, yeah.
And Lee Child is like, no, it's not up, to what I want. So it's like crushing, but at the same time, he got a response.
Yeah,
so.
even a response is,
Yeah.
I'm putting that on the wall.
Right?
But they say Stephen King had 600 rejections up on his wall before he sold Carrie. Or
Tack 'em up there, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to do with those emails, but yeah.
And do you think that you're gonna go with an agent for your next book, or are you gonna keep trying?
I think I would, because after realizing how much back and forth there is, and then having a day job too, I think I would, if I got that
Plus, I
offer.
think they could pitch to a higher publisher, a bigger publisher, not a higher, but yeah, I think that's the advantage is you've got somebody out there working full time for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then it's hard to get an agent. You've got to go through that same process.
Mm-hmm.
But having a book under your belt will definitely help.
Mm-hmm.
They want proven success.
Yeah,
so.
that's true. They don't want to waste their time.
Mm-hmm.
So how many conferences do you think you go to a year? Is that part of your strategic plan for being an author?
Yeah, like, the beginning of the year, here's a goal, goal. And then at the end of the year, I look and I say, oh, failed. Succeeded, all right. So I try to shoot for like 4 or 5 a year.
Because they're expensive.
They
I mean,
are, yeah.
So did you do pitches when you were at the?
Yeah, at the Indiana one I did.
Because some of them you have to pay extra for the pitch,
Yeah.
and you get 8 minutes or something to spin your yarn.
Yeah, speed dating
Yeah.
with a book. And in my opinion, maybe one day it'll work, but in my opinion, it just seems so hurried. And I was kind of like reading body language, and some of the agents just seemed checked out by the time I got mine. Mine was in the afternoon.
Oh,
So they'd already
okay.
been doing this all day. In 10 minutes. So you got 6 per hour, then maybe they get a little break. And you pay $10. And the person that I had pitched to, I did research afterwards, and I couldn't find a single author they were representing.
Wait a minute.
So it seemed to me like this agency was just going around to different conferences and I don't know how it works, but it seemed a little fishy to me.
Oh, so you think they were just getting the money from
or
the conferences?
trying to
'Cause
establish
that's like
a
$100
presence.
a day or something.
Yeah. So, but I'm gonna keep doing it.
Well, I think
It's-
I think the chance.
What's the chance?
There's stories of people of it working. I think it's by just the
I
experience
got
of
mine
doing the pitch
by a pitch.
at a
I got
conference.
my agent at the Lakefly.
Oh, really?
Susan Baggins, yeah. She was sitting there, and I just walked up to her and I said, "Hey, how's
I think
it
at the
going?"
very least, it's an end.
Yeah, it's a chance.
I'm writing to you. I talked to you
Yeah.
at the Lakefly Writers Conference.
Yes.
Remember me? Well,
Yeah.
they probably
That's
don't, 'cause
fine.
like you said, they've seen so many people.
Oh, I'll never forget the funniest thing at one of
But
those
at least
conferences.
they can go, oh yeah, I was there. So then they
Mm-hmm.
will delve a little deeper.
They always talk about doing an elevator pitch in 30 seconds or less. Tell them about your novel. And I actually got trapped in an elevator, or was in an elevator with an agent. And I looked at him and he goes, "No, don't do it." I said, "I've got to. This is the elevator pitch." But no, he didn't represent me, so it didn't work.
Trapped in an elevator.
You better listen to me.
Yeah. 3 hours later, all right,
I'll represent you.
I'll represent you.
All right, well, we're talking with Dan Anderson, and his book is called?
Drunken, the Warm Glow.
You have a blog or anything you'd like to?
Yeah, I do have one. It's just DW Anderson at WordPress, and I'm feeling that thing out. I'm working on the third book, which is going to be a collection of humor stories. So basically,
Oh, humor's hard to write.
and I thought, well, I'm going to try and take like stand-up comedy, but transform it into writing. You know.
So it helped when we had that comedian.
It did, yeah. A guy that's rubbed elbows with famous people. He's got some stories. Yeah, it did. So what I'm doing on this blog, yeah, WordPress.
Mhm.
WordPress under DW Anderson, so my students don't find me as easily. But I'm basically trying to do like put one story a week there
Mhm.
on there until I finish the whole thing.
But then it's published, isn't it?
I think if I remove it,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to check that, because I think
Yeah.
once it's
Well-
up, it's published. No?
Well, I would say, my tendency would think that it has been published, but
You could change
there's
it.
plenty of, well,
Edited.
edit a little
Mhm.
bit, and I think that just go and say it's previously been published. But also, I believe that it has, as a collection, then
Mhm.
it would be
Published separately,
published.
perhaps.
And
first
there's
time.
certainly a lot of people that have published books, taken their blog and published it into books.
Yeah, Night Vale is one that comes to mind. They started it as a blog, and then they just kind of put it together as a book, and it's
Yeah.
it's wildly successful.
yeah, there's that Justin Halpert, I think his name is, Things
My
My
Dad
Dad
Says.
Says, where it was a Twitter feed, I think,
Mm-hmm,
that he adapted into a hilarious book.
yeah.
Yeah, it sounds good just from the time.
Oh, the Twitter page is hilarious.
Yes.
The book was good.
Well, thank you, Dan, and we'll look forward to seeing your book come out. We'll probably have you again when it comes out, and you can show us the
Update
cover.
us and
Yeah. Did
you get a
talk
choice
more
on the
about your next
cover?
book.
Or do you
Yes,
know?
they will design it, and then they kind of give me, here it is. What do you think of it? So I do have the right for input, but
Just a
if
little bit, yeah.
they can ignore my input,
Yes,
which
yeah.
is probably a good
But
thing to do.
hopefully they'll at least listen.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well,
And congratulations. I mean, this is
Congratulations, that's awesome.
having a book in the works, coming out in a year. That's phenomenal.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to be on Author Showcase, please contact us on our Facebook page or at oshkoshauthorshowcase@gmail.com. Otherwise, continue the conversation with Dixie and Tom via social media. Look for Dixie by searching for Daisy Jericho, and please check out her books, The Love Thief and Sparks Fly, on Amazon. You can find Tom Cannon on many types of social media, and please check out his book on Amazon, The Towel of Apathy. Our goal is to introduce local authors around Oshkosh and hear their stories. We want to thank the Oshkosh Public Library and the Friends of Oshkosh Public Library for supporting the creation of this show. If you are a writer and are looking for a community, we suggest the Oshkosh Area Writers Club and the Lakefly Writers Conference, held each May.